Maria Santos arrived in Dubai as a quiet maid, but no one knew her presence would ignite a deadly secret inside the Malik family villa. Dubai rose from the desert like a promise that never slept. Glass towers reflected the sun by day and glittered like jewels at night. In one quiet residential area, away from the noise of tourists and traffic, stood a modern villa surrounded by tall walls and security cameras. Inside that house lived a married couple who seemed to represent everything success was supposed to look like. The husband was a well-known businessman, respected in social circles and admired for his rapid rise in the competitive world of trade. His name carried weight, and his lifestyle showed it. Expensive suits filled his wardrobe, and luxury cars rested in the driveway as symbols of achievement. His wife matched the image perfectly. She carried herself with grace and control, always calm, always composed. She managed the household with precision and believed deeply in loyalty and discipline. To outsiders, their marriage appeared strong and unbreakable. Invitations to social gatherings arrived regularly, and their appearances together were flawless. Smiles were exchanged, photographs were taken, and envy followed them wherever they went. But inside the villa, the atmosphere was different. Large rooms echoed with silence. Meals were often eaten alone, and conversations had become short and formal. The warmth that once filled the house had slowly faded, replaced by routine and distance. The wife sensed the change but told herself that busy lives demanded sacrifices. She believed that stability mattered more than emotions. Dubai continued to move fast outside their walls, chasing ambition and wealth, while inside the villa, something fragile was quietly cracking. What looked like a perfect life was already standing on weak foundations. Neither of them realized that this silence was not peace, but a warning. A single truth, still hidden, was waiting to surface and change everything forever. The decision to hire help came naturally, as the villa was large and demanding. The couple wanted efficiency, order, and privacy, and the agency promised all three. A few days later, a Filipina maid arrived with a small suitcase and a calm, respectful demeanor. She learned the house quickly, memorizing routines, schedules, and unspoken rules. Her presence was quiet at first, almost unnoticed, as she moved from room to room cleaning, cooking, and organizing without drawing attention to herself. Over time, subtle changes began to appear. The house felt more active, yet strangely tense. The husband started returning home earlier than usual, no longer staying out late as he once did. His phone was always close, often turned face down, and his mood shifted unpredictably. Sometimes he appeared unusually relaxed, other times distant and irritated. These changes were small, easy to explain away, but they slowly formed a pattern. The maid also began to change. Her confidence grew, and she seemed more aware of her surroundings. She paid extra attention to her appearance, choosing her clothes carefully and fixing her hair even when there was no reason to be seen. When the wife passed by, the maid's eyes often dropped, and her movements became hurried, as if she feared being noticed for too long. The wife observed everything in silence. She noticed how the husband and the maid were rarely in the same room when she entered, how conversations stopped suddenly, how doors were sometimes closed without explanation. Still, she refused to accept what her instincts suggested. Trust, she believed, was the foundation of marriage, and suspicion would only poison it. Yet the air inside the villa felt heavier with each passing day. Something unseen was growing within those walls, slowly reshaping the balance of the household. What had started as simple domestic help was quietly becoming the center of a dangerous shift, one that would soon break the illusion of control and order forever. The wife's unease slowly turned into constant awareness. Every movement inside the villa felt louder, every small detail impossible to ignore. She began noticing patterns that no longer felt accidental. The husband's schedule became irregular, and his explanations were often vague. He spent more time alone, locking himself in his study or stepping outside to take calls at odd hours. His behavior carried a tension that did not exist before, as if he were guarding something fragile. The maid's presence grew more noticeable despite her attempts to remain invisible. She avoided eye contact and moved quickly through shared spaces. At times, she appeared nervous, checking her surroundings before entering rooms. The wife noticed that certain areas of the house were cleaned more frequently than necessary, while others were neglected, as if attention was being deliberately redirected. These small inconsistencies formed a quiet but disturbing picture. Personal belongings began to feel misplaced. The wife sensed unfamiliar scents lingering in spaces that once felt private. Items were moved slightly, not enough to prove anything, but enough to unsettle her. The house no longer felt entirely hers. Each day, the feeling of intrusion grew stronger. Despite the mounting signs, the wife struggled with denial. She reminded herself of years spent building the marriage, of trust that had never been questioned before. She feared that accepting her suspicions would mean admitting her life was built on a lie. This internal conflict consumed her thoughts, draining her energy and peace. By the end of each day, certainty replaced doubt. The truth remained unspoken, but it pressed against her mind relentlessly. Whatever was happening inside the villa was no longer hidden. It was only waiting for the right moment to reveal itself completely. The afternoon arrived without warning, disrupting the careful rhythm of the household. The wife returned earlier than usual, her movements quiet and unannounced. The villa seemed unusually still, as if it were holding its breath. Curtains filtered the sunlight into soft shadows, and the familiar sounds of routine were absent. This silence felt different, heavy with meaning. As she walked deeper into the house, small details caught her attention. A door that was normally open stood closed. The air carried a tension that made her slow her steps. Nothing dramatic happened in that moment, yet everything changed. What she witnessed required no explanation, no confirmation, and no words. The truth revealed itself clearly, leaving no space for doubt or denial. Her heart raced, but her body remained frozen. Years of trust collapsed instantly, replaced by a sharp sense of betrayal. The life she believed in, the marriage she protected, and the dignity she carried so carefully were shattered in a single silent discovery. The walls around her felt closer, suffocating, as if the villa itself had turned against her. She left the space quietly, refusing to react, refusing to let emotions take control. No confrontation followed. No sound escaped her. Yet inside her mind, chaos erupted. Every memory replayed itself with new meaning, exposing moments she had once ignored. From that day forward, the house was no longer a home. It became a reminder of humiliation and broken trust. The truth had surfaced, calm and cruel, marking the beginning of an irreversible path. Nothing could return to how it was before. The silence that followed was louder than any scream, sealing a fate that had already been set in motion. After that day, time seemed to lose its normal flow. The wife moved through her routine like a shadow, performing daily tasks without feeling present. Nights became the hardest. Sleep refused to come, and when it did, it was shallow and restless. Her mind replayed the discovery again and again, each time cutting deeper. Every detail of the house felt poisoned. The walls, the furniture, even the air carried memories she could not escape. She began to withdraw from the outside world. Social gatherings were ignored, calls went unanswered, and messages remained unread. The image of control and elegance she once maintained started to crack beneath the weight of betrayal. In quiet moments, anger replaced sadness. What began as emotional pain slowly transformed into something sharper and more dangerous. The sense of humiliation burned constantly, feeding thoughts she had never allowed herself to have before. The villa, once a symbol of success, now felt like a prison. She walked its halls endlessly, noticing every corner where trust had been broken. Her thoughts became obsessive, circling around the same question without relief. The idea of justice twisted into a desire for balance, a need to reclaim power that had been stolen from her. As days passed, her emotional isolation deepened. She no longer saw the situation as a mistake or weakness, but as a deliberate act against her dignity. The line between reason and impulse blurred. What frightened her most was not the anger itself, but how calm it began to feel. In that stillness, a dangerous resolve quietly took shape, pushing her toward a point where turning back would no longer seem possible. The night arrived without drama, wrapped in a calm that felt unnatural. Outside, the city lights glowed steadily, unaware of what was unfolding behind the villa's walls. Inside, everything appeared normal on the surface. The house was clean, quiet and still. Yet beneath that calm, pressure had been building for days, tightening with every passing hour. The wife moved through the space with slow purpose. Her thoughts were no longer chaotic. They felt sharp, focused, and dangerously clear. What once seemed unthinkable now felt inevitable. The sense of control she had lost was replaced by a cold determination. There was no hesitation, only a steady progression toward an irreversible moment. As the night deepened, the silence became complete. No interruptions came from outside. No one noticed anything unusual. Within the villa, events unfolded quickly, driven by emotions that had been buried for too long. The consequences were immediate and final. By the time the night reached its darkest hour, a life had ended, and another had been permanently shattered. When morning approached, the villa stood unchanged from the outside. Sunlight touched the walls as it always had. But inside, nothing remained the same. The luxury, the success, and the carefully protected image had all collapsed in a single night. What remained was the weight of reality. The wife stood surrounded by the outcome of her actions, fully aware that there was no escape from what had been done. The choice had been made, and the path forward was no longer hers to control. The silence that followed was heavy, filled with consequences that would soon reach far beyond the villa's gates. The discovery shocked the authorities and shattered the illusion that the villa had protected for years. What first appeared to be a tragic incident quickly revealed deeper layers of deception. Investigators moved through the house carefully, documenting every detail. The luxury surroundings contrasted sharply with the reality uncovered inside. Nothing about the scene matched the image of harmony the couple had presented to the world. As evidence was collected, a hidden history began to surface. Financial records, phone data, and digital traces pointed toward a long period of secrecy. The husband's public reputation collapsed as facts replaced assumptions. The case revealed emotional manipulation, broken trust, and a private life far removed from public appearances. Each finding added weight to the growing understanding that the crime was not sudden, but the result of prolonged tension. Attention soon turned to the maid. Her absence raised immediate concern. Travel records showed she had left the country shortly after the incident. Efforts to locate her failed, leaving behind unanswered questions and speculation. Her disappearance added another layer of mystery, complicating an already disturbing case. Media coverage intensified, turning the private tragedy into a public spectacle. Headlines focused on wealth, betrayal, and violence behind closed doors. Social discussions questioned how such a crime could remain hidden for so long. The villa, once admired, became a symbol of secrecy and collapse. By the end of the investigation, the truth stood clear but incomplete. Some questions would never be answered. What remained undeniable was that a life of appearances had concealed deep fractures, and once exposed, the damage spread far beyond the walls where it began. When the case finally faded from the headlines, its impact did not disappear. The villa was sold quietly, its polished floors and white walls stripped of meaning. New owners arrived with no connection to what had happened there, unaware that the space had once held a carefully hidden tragedy. For the city, it became just another property. For those who knew the story, it remained a reminder of how easily darkness can hide behind success. The outcome left lasting consequences. A life was lost, and another was consumed by the weight of irreversible choices. What began as trust had slowly decayed into suspicion, then obsession, and finally destruction. The crime was not born in a single moment, but shaped over time by silence, denial, and unchecked emotions. Each ignored warning had played a role in the final outcome. Public discussion eventually shifted away, but the lesson remained clear. Wealth, beauty, and status offer no protection from betrayal or emotional collapse. When truth is avoided and pain is buried, it does not disappear. It waits, growing stronger until it demands to be acknowledged in the most destructive way. This story served as a quiet warning. Relationships built only on appearance are fragile. Secrets may feel safe in the moment, but they always leave traces. When trust breaks, the damage reaches far beyond the people involved, affecting families, reputations, and lives forever. In the end, there were no winners. Only consequences remained. The silence that once hid everything became the loudest truth of all, proving that no matter how high the walls or how bright the city lights, reality always finds a way to surface.